Ladies and gentlemen, my short submission here focus or develop further what Nigel has been saying, that our state corporations that sit on billions of dollars of assets, including lots of real estate, need to be reformed so that they do not depend on government bailouts, because every time you give a government bailout, the taxpayers has to pay, or the roads can't be built, or the medical facilities can't buy drugs. So Change Guyana wants to outline our policies on state corporations, basically to make them more efficient. If they're not efficient, then we privatize them, and I'll go through some of the plans that we have. Nigel mentioned about the disconnect between ministries serving the same functions by having so many ministries, which to me is a waste of time because policies cannot be coordinated properly. The goals cannot be met in a cohesive way. Strategies cannot be implemented to achieve a certain outcome. So there are a lot of inefficiencies, like somebody just wake up in the morning and dream about something and scribble something on paper and then review it back again. That's the state of management, of public management that we have. And that's why it has given rise to such inefficiencies, such underperformance, such poverty in our society today. The poor performance of state-managed corporations illustrate the well-known fact that government cannot manage businesses and should therefore stay out of businesses. Yet in Guyana, government, through various corporations, sits on billions of dollars of resources that are poorly managed, even raking in significant losses that provide a drain on taxpayers' resources, resulting in higher taxes for individuals and the private sector alike. These higher taxes restrict the growth of private sector businesses, even making them uncompetitive in most cases. The result is that job creation and workers' compensation are stunted, investments curtailed, which results in a stagnant economy, unable to provide opportunities for young graduates entering the labor force. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the familiar story of Guyana, where 80% of UG graduates leave our shores to find opportunities denied them at home, often with youth's personal sacrifices for a family and a hostile working environment abroad. This is the story confronting 2,000 graduates at the last UG convocation last Saturday. Their youthful energy, hard work, dreams, and expectations are shattered by their inability to find a suitable job. Out of the 2,000, we might only have, I would say, 300 remain. A lot of, from all the statistics, is that after graduation, our graduates migrate for better opportunities. In 2017 and 2018, Gaisuco, GPL, Guy Oil, Guyana National Shipping, and NIS recorded $28 billion in losses, deficit of $28 billion. In the past 10 years, $22 billion of support was extended to GPL and sent $7 billion to Gaisuco. Interim results for 2019 shows a continued deficit of around $4 billion at GPL and billions at Gaisuco. The crying question is where and when will this all end, because the deficit has to be paid from somewhere. Mismanagement, incompetence, and political interference at all levels, including board appointments, will continue to result in losses to the detriment of Guyanese. Proceeds from oil would be used to hide such mismanagement going forward. Last week, Change Guyana outlined our plan for GPL. Today, we look at Gaisuco. The fate of Gaisuco is well documented. Successive PPP administrations failed to take decisive action to restructure the corporation and diversify its business when it was clear since the early 1990s that such was urgent given the planned withdrawal of preferential access into Europe and the USA. Political appointments to management and board of directors stripped the corporation of professional and competent management and decision-making. Perhaps the biggest blunder was the decision of the then Jagdeo administration to invest $200 million US on a new factory at Skeldon, instead of spending a fraction of that amount to improve the efficiencies at all sugar factories. This decision effectively made Gaisuco bankrupt. Why would we invest $200 million in an industry when all countries in the region are actually closing sugar estates because of uncompetitive prices? The decision of the coalition administration to close Rose Hall, Enmore, and Wales estates without an investor is equally damaging. They had 3 years after inauguration to find investors, but their only method was to open a special projects unit at Nasil instead of engaging a Wall Street firm with its international reach and experience. There again, decisions after decisions result in very poor outcomes and impact our people. Again, the coalition, instead of allotting sugar lands at Wales to displaced sugar workers to facilitate their adjustments away from employment in sugar, thousands of acres were given to friends of the political elites. Politics have destroyed the livelihoods of thousands of sugar and bauxite workers and leave those communities destitute. Decisions after decisions, politicians have failed the people of this country. Perhaps the biggest reason for poverty in Guyana is poor decisions by those least competent to make those decisions. Today, we remain the poorest in the region, with a per capita income of under $4,000 US, a stark contrast to the little island of Antigua of $17,000 US and Barbados $18,000 US. It is no coincidence, therefore, that many Guyanese have migrated to these countries. With abundant land resources, minerals, seafood-rich coastline, rich forests, we continue to ask why. The economic underdevelopment of successive PPP administrations and now that of the coalition must come to an end if we as a nation want a better future for ourselves and families. This is a decision we must all be united on. The time has never been more urgent. Change Guyana plan for state corporations. All corporations will be returned to profitability by independent professional management. Our plan for GPL has been articulated last week. As regards Gaisuco, we will return all operating estates to profitability with better management, with investments in cogeneration at Albion, Blairmont, Iflot, to diversify and strengthen the business of Gaisuco. A number of value-added initiatives will be implemented. Workers displaced at Rose Hall, Enmore, and Wales would be allotted lands to start their own agricultural business. Technical product development and marketing support would be provided. We would make these workers entrepreneurs instead of the breaking back work on sugar estates. Instead of reopening closed sugar estates, as promised by the PPP, which we feel is not feasible, privatization options will be pursued where it is justified for long-term sustainable development in each areas. Our plan is to over time move workers from sugar into entrepreneurship and agricultural development. Instead of the coalition, the two major parties plan to keep supporters cotton cane. All other state corporations would be mandated to operate profitably and contribute to the national economy instead of receiving taxpayer support. All CEOs of these corporations will be given clear mandate to operate without political interference. Non-performance will be replaced. Marginal performing corporations will be privatized to remove the burden on the taxpayer. Privatization policy. The real value of privatization of state assets is often misunderstood in Guyana, perhaps because it has been used politically by the two racially dominated parties to canvass support. Our view is that the private sector principles of efficiency and productivity is the best way of maximizing the return on any investments. The profit motive is a compelling and driving force that directs resources where it is most profitable, with significant benefits to both employees and shareholders. Where government-controlled corporations are a drain on taxpayers because they are not profitably managed, such privatization brings enormous benefits. Taxpayers receive the value of the assets on sale. They then receive a stream of taxes on its profitable turnaround. They therefore receive benefits many times around. In the process, employees benefit from increased compensation, bonus, housing, as the ability of the entity to compensate is highly enhanced. Over the past 10 years, successive governments have extended close to $100 billion to Gaisuco and GPL. This is $500 million US dollars and is about 25% of the national budget. This, though necessary, would have been avoided with competent, forward-thinking management with the independence to craft and implement a turnaround strategy. But political influence, political appointments, lack of clear strategy, absence of visionary leadership and oversight contributed to the decline of these corporations, with consequences for job sustainability, higher taxation, and poverty. The $100 billion in support that exerted a huge burden on the taxpayers, where these corporations managed profitably, could have financed 2 bridges across the Demerara River, could have built a smart electric grid for GPL to end blackouts, could have built state-of-the-art hospitals and road networks across the country. For 3 decades, our political leaders have destroyed rather than created wealth. Wealth cannot be distributed if it's falsely not created. It is for this reason public servants cannot get the usual Christmas bonus this year, the masses cannot get a living wage, and UG graduates have to migrate. The hopelessness in Guyana today is appalling. Perhaps the architects of this state of affairs wants us to do what the Minister of Finance recently asked public servants to do. No bonus this year, but enjoy the East Coast Road and the Chedijagan International Airport. It's time for Guyana to be Guyanese first. Ladies and gentlemen, that was my submission, and that will be the policy of Change Guyana on public corporations going forward.
So, our topic today is on the public sector, and Robert will speak more directly to some of the major state-owned entities like GPL, Gaisuco, GRDB, and those that have contributed to be a drag on the economic prosperity of Guyana. But what I wanted to touch on really is our budgets, which have been increasing almost exponentially year after year over the last 20 years. Right now in 2019, our budget stands at 300 billion Guyana dollars. The increase, I think, is from $271 billion in 2018. What the problem has been is that these budget numbers, as much as everyone, the minister who's now come into office, or the minister who has stayed in office, is saying it's a record-breaking budget. But where does that transmute or translate to the quality of life of Guyanese? It absolutely is not evident. It's not evident in our infrastructure, in our schools, or the absence of it, in our education system, and the extreme poverty that many Guyanese live in, as much as 36%. We have infrastructure, education budgets of $52 billion. Yet our teachers are the lowest paid in the Caribbean. And we have over approximately 7,000 teachers in the system. We have an education budget of about 36 billion Guyana dollars for 2019. Yet our nurses and doctors are the lowest paid in the region. We have an infrastructure budget of about 39 billion. And you get a drizzle in the city floods. We have issues with our border defense. We have issues with our hinterland airstrips. We have a problem accessing many parts of the countries that should have been connected decades ago. So all these monies that have been going into, have been projected to spend on the development of Guyana, there have been too many loopholes that resulted in this virtual squandering of the fund and the lack of focus on how it can contribute to the Guyanese economy. We need to fix the administrative bureaucracy. We need to focus on enabling our teachers and our nurses to motivate them. There are some countries where the teachers are so motivated by the support they get from their governments that they actually give back, spend more time in the schools with their students, or the nurses would make the extra effort that end up saving many, many lives. In terms of the Ministry of Public Security, 24.6 billion was the budget in 2016. This jumped to 35 billion in 2019. Yet, crime has kept escalating. It's what we've come up with as a solution, a 2 p.m. curfew. In terms of the policemen on the road, you're seeing them placed at points where they tend more to be a threat, or you prefer not to see them when you're driving, because our policemen are also the most underpaid in the Caribbean. So everything feeds back to Guyanese not having a living wage, one that they're comfortable on to give of their best. And this is all part of the public sector. And this top-heavy approach and the excessive spending that we have has led us here. Excessive spending, it's a situation where you have money in your pocket, we clearly do, But it's to obtain value for the money that we spend. We're not obtaining the value for the money that we spend. And I just want to touch on some of the administrative bureaucracies we get in the public sector due to ill-defined and uncoordinated systems. And two instances I'll highlight here. We're looking at the oil sector, or energy sector. We have a Guyana Energy Agency, which falls under subject minister, who is the Minister of Public Infrastructure. Then we have the Guyana Oil Company, which falls under another subject minister, the Minister of Finance. Now we now have an energy department, which falls under the Ministry of the Presidency. There is no synergy. There is no cost saving. When you're planning in that fragmented, there's no plan if it's so fragmented. So it undermines our productivity, and productivity is a major part of accelerated economic development. And a similar situation we have with in terms of youth development and addressing youth issues. You have a youth affairs minister. You have a Department of Social Cohesion minister who is responsible for youth affairs also. So that's two ministers. Then you have a youth empowerment advisor to the president. And again, there is no congruency, there is no connectivity in these matters. It's almost it's a kind of cynicalism that these people, not specifically the ministers, but the whole structure just doesn't lend to development or to focused planning, and so you can reach your goals and get value for the money that is being spent. So I'm saying the issues that plague our public sector are a mixture of ineffective planning and governance that places too little emphasis on making the private sector remain vehicle for inclusive and economic development. And I feel very strongly that Change Guyana will create the environment that will allow for the accelerated economic development that Guyana direly needs. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. First of all, I must say that thank you for coming out. And the temperature is nice today, so it's very cool. As Mr. Robert Badal said, my name is Tanaina Ashora Samaru. Everyone calls me Ash. Today, I would like to just explain why I'm here, who I am, and why I support Mr. Badal, Mr. Nigel Hinds, and Change Guyana. But just a little bit about myself. I grew up in industry. It's on the east coast of Demerara. My family were farmers, and we had an extended group. So I really enjoyed my childhood 20 years ago. And I'm pretty sure most of us also enjoyed that. In school, I did well. I excelled. And I wanted to become very successful. I wanted to be a doctor, a surgeon, as a matter of fact. But unfortunately, when I hit high school and I was about to approach to write CXC, that never happened. I had to switch careers and enter into the business stream. What can we do to better our country? This is not us just coming up with these ideas. We need to hear from everyone. Mr. Badal had mentioned that he is tired of seeing the suffering of the Guyanese people, and so am I. Mr. Nigel is very, very intelligent, and I admire him, and I believe that he has the strategic plans in place that can move our country forward. Today, our salaries are bad, healthcare is poor, infrastructure is without standards, borders are unprotected, our public servants are becoming more corrupt, and the worst of all, this is seemingly looking as the new normal. Today, we have to write history for ourselves. Without you, we cannot change Guyana. We should be in an environment where we can have, or where we can put, education must be a priority, healthcare should be of standards, taxes are not a burden, especially for small business owners, job creation through improvements in infrastructure, such as better roads, drinkable water. Also, create more jobs in the health and in the technology sectors. Better working and living standards. Make it mandatory for our homes to be built in such a beautiful way that when we walk through our neighborhoods, we just have to stand in awe. We need to live in a very conducive environment. Our neighborhoods should be as beautiful as our natural environment. This is just the beginning, I believe. What are our needs? So, please reach out to us. As you know, Change Guyana has the website and our social media page. Even write a letter through post. Let us know what your feedbacks are and how we can come together to change Guyana. Mr. Badal and Mr. Hinds are very capable individuals. They have the qualities that makes them very good leaders. And the mark that they will leave in this country is that together we can unite all races, all ages, and whatever walks of life from you came from, and to let you know that there is our hope. Like our motto says, one people, one nation, one destiny. Please continue to support Change Guyana, and please reach out to us and let us know how can we turn Guyana around and make it into this beautiful place that we call our home. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sais Narayan Shunarayan. I was born in Skelton, where I lived in the estate until I was 8 years old, and then we moved to Crabber Creek. I finished high school in 1964, went to UG from 1965 to 1970, got married in 1971, left the country, immigrated to Canada in 1973, where I pursued higher education and worked until 1988, when I officially retired and became fully self-employed. So I've been doing this, I'm self-employed now for about 30 years. I returned to Guyana to invest in 1995. At that time, at this point in time, having been here since 1995, I feel I've observed what has been going on. In actual fact, I can say since 1964. But at this point, right now, I feel it is incumbent upon me, a duty so much, to endorse the Change Guyana Party as the right choice right now for Guyanese. The Change Guyana Party is about Guyana is for Guyanese, racial discrimination, corruption, and incompetent governance. The Change Guyana Party has a progressive program to ignite the Guyanese economy, free the private sector to invest and create jobs, and return democracy to Guyana. As I think about the Change Guyana Party, those few things come to mind. Ignite the economy. Those very many ideas that Mr. Badal and Mr. Hinds has put forward about igniting the economy, the changes they want to make, and in the process they will free the private sector. The reduction and elimination of taxes will free the private sector. The elimination of red tape will free the private sector to confidently invest, our own private sector, to confidently invest in the country and create jobs. And that's what we need. And in addition to that, we need a return to democracy where you will hold governance accountable to you.
You could have had the Brazilians, you could have had the Indians, you could have had the Americans, right? Bring good technology, bring people that have the reputation of building efficient factories. I've built efficient factories, right? And I know how it's done. So it's a different approach with what they did and what we are going to do. The strategy of keeping those operating estates is to bring about a turnaround plan by introducing cogeneration to supply electricity, like at Albion, for example, that will stabilize the supply of electricity in East Barbies by renewables, at the same time enhancing the the profitability of Gaisuko. But as I mentioned, we also include various value-added initiatives, which was touted and advised to successive government all over the years. So our approach is different.